Here's something nobody wants to say out loud. Being racist isn't entirely your fault. Before you close this video, I'm not here to defend racism. I'm here to explain exactly how it happens in your brain, why most people have racial biases, don't even know they have them, and what it actually takes to fix it. Because the way we talk about racism, like it's purely a moral failing, a choice, means we never actually solve it. So let's talk about what's really going on. This is Unpopular Opinion, where we say the things everyone's thinking but nobody wants to say. Today's take is going to make some people uncomfortable. Good. That usually means we are getting somewhere honest. The conversation around racism is almost always framed as a character issue. You are either a good person or a bad person. You are either racist or you are not. And if you are racist, the solution is be better, try harder, want it more. But that framing completely ignores how the human brain actually works. And once you understand the mechanism, once you see why the brain does what it does, you'll realize that fighting racial bias requires a completely different approach than just telling people to be less prejudiced. Here's a fact about your brain that neuroscientists and cognitive psychologists have known for decades. Your brain is essentially a prediction machine. It takes in data from your environment, every experience, every news story, every person you meet, everything you are told, and it builds models, patterns, generalizations. And it uses these generalizations to make fast decisions. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's the reason you don't have to think about how to walk every time you take a step. It's the reason you know not to touch a hot stove twice. The brain learns from data and applies it forward. The technical term is heuristic thinking, mental shortcuts built from pattern recognition. And without them, you could not function. You would be overwhelmed by cognitive load of treating every single situation as brand new. So the brain generalizes, always, about everything. About dogs, about weather, about traffic, about food, and yes, about people, including people grouped by race. This is not racist. This is human. The question is, what data is it working with? Here's where it gets interesting, and where I want you to think like a data scientist for a moment. Imagine two people. Let's call them person A and person B. Person A grows up in a neighborhood where they interact with, say, 10 people from a particular racial group. Of these 10, 7 had negative interactions with them. Maybe conflicts, maybe crimes, maybe just hostility. But 3 were fine. Person A's brain logs this. Pattern recognized. This group is a threat. Association formed. Now, person B, same racial group. But person B went to a diverse school, had colleagues, friends, and neighbors from that particular group. They've interacted with 30, 40, 50 people from this group over their lifetime. Their experiences are spread across a much wider range. Some positive, some negative, but mostly neutral and human. Person B's data set is bigger, more representative. their brain builds a more accurate model. Now, here's the question. Did person A choose to be biased? Did they sit down one day and decide to be prejudiced? No. Their brain did what brains do. It found a pattern in the data it had. The problem isn't the person. The problem is the data set. In data science, this is a well-known issue called sampling bias or skewed data. If you train a machine learning model on biased data, the model will produce biased outputs. You don't blame the model, you fix the data. And here's the thing. The data feeding people's brains isn't just personal experience. It's media, it's news coverage, it's what gets shown, what gets amplified, what gets repeated. If a racial group is consistently represented in crime stories and rarely in other contexts, that becomes the data set for millions of people simultaneously. So here is where personal responsibility does come in, but in a more specific, honest way than just don't be racist. In data science, a competent analyst doesn't just run models blindly on whatever data they have. They ask, is this data representative? Where did it come from? What's missing? Is my sample size too small? Are there confounding variables? The developed mind does the same thing. Recognizing that your data might be skewed, that your experiences are small, possibly a representative sample of a much larger, more complex reality, is a cognitive skill. It requires training. It requires exposure. It requires the intellectual humanity to say, my brain has reached a conclusion, but my brain is working with limited information. Most people never do this. Not because they are bad people, but because nobody taught them to. We teach people that racism is wrong, but we do not teach people how the brain creates bias and what to do about it. A child who grows up in a homogeneous neighborhood, consuming media that consistently associates a racial group with negativity, hasn't chosen to be biased. Their brain has been trained on skewed data and is doing exactly what it's supposed to do with that data. The intervention isn't shame. It's better data, broader experience, and the intellectual habit of questioning your own conclusions. The dominant approach to tackling racism treats it as purely a moral issue, and because of that, it produces mostly defensiveness. Tell someone they are a racist and what happens? They shut down, they deny, they feel attacked, and nothing changes. But if you understand that bias is a cognitive output of data input, that it's a brain doing its job badly because it's being fed incomplete data, then the conversation changes. It stops being you're a bad person and starts being your brain has been trained on skewed data sets and here's how to fix it. One of those conversations produces shame and resistance, while the other produces curiosity and potentially change. That's not me being soft on racism. That's me being serious about actually solving it. Now, the strongest pushback to everything I've just said is this. You are letting racists off the hook. You are giving people an excuse. And I understand that instinct, especially for people who have been on the receiving end of racial bias, who have been followed into stores, passed over for jobs, and treated as suspects. The idea that their oppressor's brain was just working with bad data can feel like an absurd minimization. That's a fair and legitimate point. But here's this distinction I would ask you to hold. Explaining something is not the same as excusing it. Understanding why drunk driving happens due to stress, addiction, social pressure doesn't mean we stop holding drunk drivers accountable. Understanding why domestic violence occurs doesn't mean we excuse abusers. But if you only ever moralize without understanding mechanism, you get a lot of condemnation and very little change. And here's something else worth saying. At a certain point, especially in adulthood, you are responsible for your data set. If you are an adult who has the ability to expand your world, to consume more diverse media, to question your assumptions, to seek out experiences that challenge your generalization, and you choose not to, then yes, the moral weight shifts. The brain that never had a chance is different from the brain that had every chance and chose comfort over growth. So here is the actual unpopular opinion. Racism isn't primarily a moral problem, it's a data problem. And we would never solve it by shaming people into compliance. Because shame doesn't update data sets. Experience does. Education does. Honest, uncomfortable conversations do. Your brain is not broken for forming generalizations. Every human brain does it. The question is whether you have the self-awareness to examine those generalizations, ask where they came from, and be willing to update them when the evidence demands it. The developed mind assumes exceptions to rules. The developed mind recognizes when its sample data is small. The developed mind treats its own biases as bugs to be fixed, not verdicts to be defended. You didn't choose your early data, but you choose what you do with it now. That's the take. Agree or disagree? I want to hear it in the comments. If this made you think, even if it made you uncomfortable, that's the point of this channel. Subscribe for a new unpopular opinion every week. And if you want to tell me exactly why I'm wrong, the comments are right there. I read them. See you in the next one.